Go to Ephesians 4. I read 32. Go there, Ephesians 4:32. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven us. When you see us, it's simile. You know, the Bible is written with literature. Okay, that's simile. That means we are looking at God to forgive. We are looking at God to forgive. This is the context of Ephesians 5 verse 2. So let's read again. Everybody, let's read together. 1 to go. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for your sake. For whose sake? For Christ's sake. That means for Christ's sacrifice, for Christ's offering, for Christ's death, burial, and resurrection, for the payment of sin which Christ did on your behalf, God forgave you. Pay attention. God did not forgive you for your sake. He did not forgive you because you repented. He did not forgive you because you changed your ways. He did not forgive you because you gave sin offering or you confessed your sin. No. God, now look at the tenses. For Christ's sake hath forgiven. Did you see forgiven? What tenses is that? Past tense. That means you are forgiven. Let me look at your neighbor and say, you are forgiven. Even the sin you committed today, you are forgiven. But what? For man, it is forgiving. Why? Because we are human. People will wrong us tomorrow. People will wrong us today. So we keep forgiving. But for God, He has forgiven. God's forgiveness is once and for all. Your forgiveness is continuous. God's forgiveness is once and for all. But because you are human, your forgiveness is continuous. So Jesus will say, if your neighbor offend you 77 times 7, how many times can you forgive him? He said, forgive 7 times 7. Because man will continue to forgive. But you can walk in God's standards. You can come to the place of knowledge where you grow to the point where anyone that wronged you, before they wrong you, you are forgiving them. It is growth. Okay? It is growth. You can come to that place of God. Actually, that's what Ephesians 4 said, that we should come to the fullness of Christ. The fullness of Christ is the walking in His love. Where before man sinned, He forgave. Before man sinned. That is why you should not find it difficult to understand that your sin of tomorrow has been forgiven. Because after the cross, forgiveness in all the epistle is past tense. It is what God has done, not what God will do. So you be kind, be forgiving to one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. So the believer does not have rights to hold forgiveness back. Why? He has been forgiven. It is such as you have, you give. And let me ask you a question. Do you have forgiveness? Talk to me, church. Do you have forgiveness? So since you have forgiveness, you are to give it. It is walking in love. So we are looking at, as God forgave, He forgave for Christ's sake. So look at me. How should you forgive? For Christ's sake. You will forgive for Christ's sake, walking in love. So if you notice your brother offend you 72 times 7 times, you have not walked in love. If you notice it, that means you are counting. So that statement is not walking in love. So it is for the man walking in the flesh. But you that is walking in love, after his death, it is not 77 times. It is as Christ. Are you following? It is as Christ has forgiven you. As Christ forgave me, he did not wait for me to apologize. Though apology is necessary between man and man, Christ did not wait for me to repent. Take note, it is as Christ. It is not as I feel. It is not, he has not come to say sorry. Am I talking to believers in the house?